Hello, welcome again to Chile Talk. I'm Neil Davidson in Santiago. I'm with Pete Lee. Where are you again, Pete?
I'm in Yesh, which is a university city in northeastern Romania, not too far from the Ukrainian border, actually.
Okay, well, in just a moment, I'm going to ask you for your impressions of the place, but I'll just say, we did an episode a couple of days ago after a very long absence, received a couple of rather touching comments that made us feel we'd been missed. Um, so we're launching straight in again. In fact, it was so recent. I think I'm still wearing the same shirt, actually. But we do appreciate this signs that that our product is actually needed. We do wonder. So we're going to talk today about the this whole constitutional process again, and a rather for policy wonks, exciting and perhaps possibly sinister development. But first of all, Peter, just tell us, because I have no image at all of Yesh or hardly any of Romania. What's it like being there?
Well, this particular city is a university city that was granted a university in the 1840s, much as Universidad de Chile was reformulated in 1842, 1843, the same sort of period when the Austro-Hungarian Empire was under some pressure in terms of presenting itself as a Germanic empire and devolving some of the identities towards its multicultural composition, including a university focused on the Romanian culture, Romanian language. And it's a lovely town of about 500,000 people, centered around the university. I'm working on a project here, and I like it a lot.
That's great. Just very briefly, I'm English, and contrary to to the impression some people have garnered, the English, far from being xenophobic, tend to think that all foreigners of every description are better at everything than them. So I always have the idea that foreigners, Central Europeans, are far more cultured, the average Englishman, for example. Is there anything in that?
Well, the impression I get from this particular city is that there is a level of general education among the people that you don't recognize neither in Britain, including in some of the more prominent university cities, and of course, neither in Chile. There is a level of culture and engagedness that strikes me as remarkable.
I'm aware that we mustn't linger too long on this, but I'm aware that in Russia, people who go to Russia still find that sort of everybody, though they can be quite brutal, some of them, everybody has sometimes somebody can play a guitar, and this other person likes poetry, and there seems to be there's also this greater sort of permeation of kind of a higher culture. Is this the legacy of communism, or something older, or perhaps you'd like more time to consider that?
Well, I mean, it's a very good question. There is a dignification of what you can contribute to your immediate social circle, which I guess is analogous with ideals of communism. That's quite beautiful. Of course, underlying all that, there's a lot of corruption as well. So,
Sure.
yeah,
I'm sure we're all aware of the bad side of communism, but there is this thing of education and high culture, of course, which they all seem to have had when it was communism.
yes, I mean, a tone is set and people harmonize around that particular tone in a way it's lovely.
And that is a little alien to us as Anglo-Saxons. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to our main topic, which is Bachelet Michelle Bachelet has said something, hasn't she? And I invite you to tell us what it is.
Oh, I love that. Michelle Bachelet, because I know you're a proponent of Pinochet, and I'm a proponent of Pinochet. And this is one of these interesting splits among these Basque names in those cases from the French side of the Basque society.
This is what a degree in French does for you. It makes you slightly sort of pretentious.
Yes, I mean it's it's an interesting one. Well, Michelle Bachelet has come out strongly on the side of pushing her own socialist party towards running with the Apruebo Dignidad side of the election for the constitutional councillors that will come up in May. Now,
Obviously,
that's
as you will all know, being this left-wing coalition that is now currently, at the head of the government.
at the head of the government, not the majority part of the head of the government, but it's made up of the Frente Amplio movement, which is the student politicians who are now 15 years too old to be student politicians, but behaving rather similarly. And the Communist Party, which is a very professional agitation organization, and some other smaller organizations. Now, she's pushing the Socialist Party towards that side and away from the possibility of siding with what would be considered to be the centre left, which consists of another socialist party led by, historically, Ricardo Lagos, the president before Bachelet was the president the first time in the early 2000s, the Party for Democracy, also the Radical Party, which is a party associated with Freemasonry, the heritage of Freemasonry and centrism in a certain sense, and also the Christian Democrats, which is a Catholic-oriented party analogous with Christian Democrat movements in countries such as Italy, parts of Germany, France to some extent.
Okay.
So we're going to see a split between these two sides in the lists, in the formulation of the lists that you will vote for. So you vote for a particular list, and there will be two options on the left. Now, you may say that
This is what she's asking. This is what she's asking for. This isn't a done deal yet.
She's trying to push everything into one side, but
sorry, yeah, I'm getting totally confused. Right, she's right. She's trying to. So the situation at the moment is that there are two lists.
The situation now seems to be that there will be two lists. In our previous Shelley talk, I suggested that there would only be one, because if there are two lists, it's very likely that the more leftward perceived list will be punished because we're more closely associated with the current government. And this provides the opportunity for the more centrist list, as perceived by the wider population, to gain proportionally a much larger vote. In the case of there being three lists, probably the right will benefit somehow. The right may well be the largest voting bloc, which is not unusual, but it may be solidly the largest voting bloc, with the centrists next, and the left aesthetic of Pueblo Dignidad and the Bachelet side of the Socialist Party being, well, heavily punished. Looks like the most likely prognosis at this point.
I see. So have you got any indication of Bachelet's thinking? Why she's pushing for this now?
I mean, it's very hard to say. Bachelet herself is an interesting figure who reconfigured herself towards the left in her second term. So her second term, beginning in 2013, she was voted in. 2014, she came in, and she made a move towards the left from from solidly in the center to towards the left, in line with certain movements in social sentiment, without necessarily following up in any concrete policy manner. And now this would seem to be a ploy even further towards the left on her part. What vote does she carry with her in terms of her personal brand? Well, it seems to be what we call the classe media woman, the middle-aged classe media woman. Classe media, literally middle class, means working class, effectively woman. So lower income women, a lot of them have more sympathy for Bachelet the harder their lives are. She's perceived as having lived a pretty difficult life herself, and a lot of women identify with her. That's probably a couple of 100,000 votes at most in a country with at least 19 million people. So she may not be the great force that she's sometimes billed as.
So they still have this regard for her, although after being president twice, she then went to kind of cushy job at the UN, didn't she? And now she's back in Chile, back in politics.
Yes, she's back. Someone who's also back is Ricardo Lagos, who was president before her, and he's famous.
Yeah.
Well, he's got centrist sentiments, which is quite typical for the Chilean political class, if you like, and political instincts as well. And it's most probable that a more centrist position will be more sympathetically perceived by the wider population. It's probably what the Chileans want. They don't want more of what they saw in 2022, for example.
Okay, so Lagos is opposing this move of Michelle Bachelet.
And yes, and pushing for a centrist ticket alongside this left aesthetic, if you like. And he may well have a reason. I mean, the Chileans are a very centrist people, and if they are offered a solid centrist option, they most likely will take it. There is an indication, however, according to some of the polling, that the wider population is skeptical of any possibility of success of this latest wending of the constitutional process. So some indicators suggest that already prior to a proposal being formulated, voters will vote against it, will vote to reject it, which I think is a very worrying sign in terms of Chilean democracy, to have this preconceived notion that this new process will be incapable of producing an acceptable document that is better than what there already is. That's, to me at least, a sign of a disconsolate section of society that is quite large, and it's very sad.
I see. Well, support for democracy in Latin America generally has been quite shaky for years, hasn't it? So it could be a rather worrying sign. But anyway, that would be a topic for another day. So I guess we shall wrap up this quick look at this development.
Yes, I mean, I hope that this is a passing indicator from the poll, because I really want to see a good faith process of trying to formulate a better constitution, because Chile deserves not only a better constitution, but also the Chileans deserve to be elevated beyond beyond the possibility of blaming whatever problems they perceive among themselves on a constitution that they date to 1980 during the Pinochet dictatorship, or indeed to 2005 when the constitution was renovated by Ricardo Lagos. I really think Chile is capable of producing a better constitution than it formulated in 1980 and 2005. I think it can do better, and it's worrying to think that people are already rejecting this based on the circus that was the constitutional process of 2021 and 2022. I think we can do better.
Okay. Well, thank you, Pete, for explaining all this to me as well as to our putative listeners and watchers. Thank you for joining us. And I hope Pete, for me at least, is now frozen. So I will say the farewells. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you next time here on Shade.